Imagine this. You're standing in the middle of a river, clutching a heavy rock to your chest. The current is pulling you under, your arms are burning, and you know deep down that if you just let go of that rock, you could float. But you don't too, because you tell yourself, I've carried it this far, how can I drop it now? What if I told you, the real weight in your life isn't from what happened to you, it's from how tightly you're still holding on? Most people believe pain comes from life's big events, loss, betrayal, failure. But pain has a way of fading, unless we keep picking it back up, carrying it day after day, like that rock in the river. Letting go isn't giving up. It's choosing freedom over fear. It's setting down a burden that was never meant to be yours forever. And when you learn to release it, you don't just feel lighter. You see the world with a clarity you didn't even know you'd lost. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share something that, if you let it sink in, can change the way you carry every challenge in your life. You see, we live in a culture that praises holding on. Don't give up. Push through. Fight for it. And yes, there's strength in perseverance. But there's also wisdom in knowing when holding on has turned into self-destruction. I once knew a man who lost his job during a company downsizing. The pain wasn't just from losing the paycheck, it was from losing the identity he had wrapped around that job. For months, he replayed the moment he got the news. He held on to the anger, the humiliation, until one day, a friend asked him, "If you drop this story you've been telling yourself, who could you be instead?" That question broke something open in him. And you know what? Within a year, he was doing work he loved more than the job he lost. But it never would have happened if he'd kept gripping the rock. Buddhist philosophy has a phrase for this. When you let go, you gain. It's a paradox, because the mind tells us that letting go means losing. But the truth? When you release what no longer serves you, you make space for what does. Sometimes, what we need to release is the illusion of control. We micromanage outcomes, hold our breath until things turn out just right. But life isn't a chessboard where you control every piece. It's more like a river you guide your boat, but the current has its say. Fighting it only exhausts you. Working with it, that's where the real strength lies. Other times, letting go means easing our grip on the people we love, not in neglect, but in trust. Because when love becomes a cage, it stops being love. Space isn't distance. It's the room for someone to breathe, to grow, and often to come closer. And perhaps the most powerful letting go is realizing you are not your thoughts. You are not every fear, every memory, every what if your mind throws at you. You are the awareness, watching them, like clouds drifting across the sky. Thoughts pass. You remain. So ask yourself right now, what rock am I still holding? What story, what fear, what illusion am I gripping so tightly that it's pulling me under? Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop letting the weight define you. It means you trust that the current of life knows where it's taking you, even if you can't see the shore yet. Set it down, float, and watch how much lighter the journey becomes. Because sometimes, the bravest thing you can do isn't to hold on. It's to open your hands and let the river carry you home. 1. Stop seeking approval. When your self-worth depends on praise, you live to perform instead of living authentically. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly scanned people's faces, looking for that tiny nod, that smile, that sign that says, "You're good enough"? And when it doesn't come, your chest feels tight, like the air just got heavier. Now here's the crazy part. Even when it does come, when people praise you, it feels good for a moment, but then you're back, chasing the next nod. Like a performer on stage who can't step off because the applause is the only thing keeping them standing. This is the trap. When your self-worth is tied to other people's approval, you're not really living your life. You're auditioning for theirs. And I know that trap well because I once lived in it. Let me tell you about Maya. Maya was the kind of person who could light up a room. Always dressed perfectly. Always ready with the right joke. The perfect story. On the outside, she looked confident, but on the inside, every move was calculated. If she posted a photo online, she'd check her phone every 5 minutes to see the likes. If she gave a presentation at work, she'd replay every colleague's reaction in her head, wondering if they were impressed. If a friend didn't text back with enthusiasm, she'd spend hours wondering what she did wrong. Her life wasn't her life, it was a performance she thought people wanted to see. The outer conflict was exhausting, constantly trying to please everyone. But the deeper battle was inside. Because Maya had never actually stopped to ask, "What do I want?" when no one's watching. One night, Maya went to visit her grandmother, who lived in a small, quiet house outside the city. They sat in the kitchen, sipping tea. And her grandmother, who'd seen enough life to recognize a mask, when she saw one, asked her softly, "Do you know the difference between applause and love?" Maya froze. She didn't answer. Her grandmother continued, "Applause ends when the show is over. Love stays, even in the silence." That hit her hard, because in that moment, she realized most of her life had been chasing applause and mistaking it for love. Buddhist wisdom has a teaching: when you depend on others to define you, you become their prisoner. It's not that praise is bad, it's that praise is temporary. If your worth rises and falls with it, you'll always be restless. True freedom comes when you stop performing and start being. When you wake up and choose actions because they align with your values, not because they'll earn claps from the crowd. So I want to ask you something. Who are you when the room is empty? When there are no eyes watching, no audience to impress, what choices would you make? Would you still wear the same clothes? Speak the same words? Post the same things? The truth is, the more you live for approval, the further you drift from yourself. And the scariest part? One day, you might wake up and not recognize the person in the mirror, because they've been shaped by everyone's expectations but your own. Maya started small. She began saying no to invitations she didn't truly want to attend, even if it disappointed people. She posted less online, and when she did, it was about things she genuinely cared about, not just what would get likes. And most importantly, she practiced giving herself the approval she kept begging from others. Was it easy? But over time, the grip of that need loosened. She began to breathe deeper. Her laugh sounded different, less rehearsed, more real. And here's the beautiful thing. When you stop performing for approval, you make space for the people who love the real you to find you. So, maybe it's time to step off the stage, to put down the script, to live a life where your worth isn't handed to you by strangers, but rooted so deeply inside you, no applause or silence can take it away. Because applause fades, but authenticity, that's forever. 2. The power of surrender. Accepting and trusting the flow makes us stronger than resisting it. Got it. Here's your full 750-word YouTube script in English, written for a US audience, keeping the tone inspiring, deeply emotional yet simple, with Buddhist wisdom woven in. The core idea: the power of surrender. Accepting and trusting the flow makes us stronger than resisting it. Have you ever had a day where nothing went according to plan? You tried to fix it, you fought it, and the harder you pushed, the worse it got? It's like trying to swim upstream against a raging current. Your muscles burn, your chest aches, and still you get pulled back. In moments like that, we think resistance is strength. But what if real strength comes from surrender? Now, I'm not talking about giving up. I'm talking about something far more powerful. The kind of surrender that says, I trust the current. I trust life enough to stop fighting it. It sounds simple, but for most of us, it's the hardest thing to do. Because we're taught to control, to push, to make it happen. And yet sometimes, life has a better route than the one we planned. Let me tell you about Daniel. Daniel was a successful architect, meticulous, organized. The guy who had a 5-year plan and a backup plan for his backup plan. One spring, the company he worked for closed down overnight. No warning, no gentle landing, just gone. He panicked. For weeks, he sent out resumes, called contacts, tried to force something to happen. Every door slammed shut. The more he pushed, the heavier the weight on his chest became. One evening, exhausted, Daniel went for a walk by the river. He watched a branch floating downstream, spinning slowly in the water, carried effortlessly by the current. And for some reason, it hit him. The branch wasn't fighting to go somewhere else. It was just allowing the river to carry it. In that moment, Daniel realized he'd been thrashing against life, instead of letting it guide him. That night, he made a decision. He stopped chasing every job that didn't feel right. He gave himself permission to rest, to reflect. And just a few weeks later, a friend reached out with an unexpected opportunity, designing eco-friendly homes for a startup in a coastal town. It wasn't on his 5-year plan, but it turned out to be the most fulfilling work of his life. Daniel told me later, the moment I stopped fighting was the moment life finally had room to move me. Buddhist teachings describe this as Wu Wei, effortless action, not laziness, not passivity. It's aligning with the natural flow instead of exhausting yourself swimming against it. When we resist, we create suffering. When we accept, we create space for clarity, for opportunity, for peace. The river doesn't need you to control it. It needs you to trust that it knows where it's going. So, I want to ask you, what are you fighting right now? What if, just for today, you loosened your grip? Would you find relief? Would you discover that the thing you feared letting go of wasn't carrying you at all, you were carrying it? Surrender isn't about quitting on life. It's about quitting on the illusion that you control every twist and turn. When you practice surrender, something shifts inside you. Your chest feels lighter. Your mind stops spinning what-if scenarios. And in that stillness, you start to see possibilities you couldn't before. Daniel's story isn't rare. It happens every time someone stops clinging to the shore and dares to trust the river. Life will keep moving, with or without your permission. The question is, will you keep fighting the current, or will you learn to float? Because sometimes, the most courageous thing you can do is let go. 3. Letting go of control in caring. Love needs space, or it becomes pressure. Have you ever cared so much for someone that you ended up pushing them away? You didn't mean to. You just wanted them to be safe, to be happy. But somewhere along the way, your love turned into rules, into constant check-ins, into why didn't you text me back? It's a strange truth. Sometimes, the tighter we hold, the further they drift. We think love is about holding on, but real love, deep, healthy, lasting love, is about knowing when to loosen our grip. It's like holding a butterfly in your palm. Cup your hands too tightly, and you'll crush its wings. Hold them gently, and it will stay by choice, not because it can't leave. Let me tell you about Anna. She adored her younger brother Mark. After their parents passed, she felt responsible for him like a second mother. When Mark went to college, Anna called every day. She reminded him to study, warned him about bad influences, asked about his meals, his sleep, his friends. At first, he appreciated it, but over time, her calls became something he dreaded. One day, he finally said, "Anna, I know you love me, but I need space to live my life." It broke her heart. She thought, how could he say that? I'm just trying to help. That night, Anna couldn't sleep. She remembered a line she once heard from a Buddhist monk. Love without freedom is just another form of possession. It hit her like a wave. Her care had turned into control. She was loving from fear, fear he might fail, fear he might get hurt, not from trust. The next morning, she did something different. She called Mark, but instead of giving advice or asking questions, she simply said, "I'm here for you. I trust you." Buddhist teachings remind us, attachment is not the same as love. Attachment says, I need you to be the way I want, so I can feel safe. Love says, I want you to grow, even if it means you grow away from me. When we try to control, it's often because we can't sit with uncertainty. But life is uncertainty. And the greatest gift we can give someone is space to be fully themselves. So I want to ask you, is there someone in your life you might be holding too tightly? A child? A partner? A friend? What would happen if, just for today, you gave them more air to breathe and trusted they'd still be there? It's scary, I know, because letting go means trusting the unknown. But it's in that unknown that love can actually deepen. Anna learned that love doesn't mean fixing every problem. It means walking beside someone, not dragging them where you think they should go. When she stopped controlling, her relationship with Mark transformed. They talked less often, but with more joy. He started opening up not because he had to, but because he wanted to. And Anna realized something beautiful. When you give love space, it breathes. And when it breathes, it grows. So here's the paradox. The more you let go, the closer you often become. Love isn't a cage. It's the open sky. And the people you truly care about, if you give them the freedom to fly, you might be surprised how often they choose to land right back beside you. 4. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer. Have you ever had a thought so heavy, it felt like it defined you? Maybe it whispered, "You're not good enough," or shouted, "You're going to fail." And for a moment, you believed it. You wore that thought like a name tag on your chest. But what if I told you, you are not your thoughts? You're something far greater. We live in our minds all day, yet most of us never question what's going on in there. Thoughts come and go like clouds passing in the sky, but we mistake them for who we are. Buddhist wisdom says, you are the sky. Everything else is just weather. If a storm passes through, the sky isn't damaged. In the same way, a painful thought doesn't define you. It's just passing through. Let me tell you about David. He was a talented designer, but every time he sat down to create, a voice in his head whispered, "You're not as good as the others." Don't embarrass yourself. He thought that voice was telling the truth. So he worked less, avoided challenges, and started to believe he was a fraud. One day, a friend took him to a mindfulness retreat. The teacher asked the group to sit quietly and just watch their thoughts, like watching cars pass on a road. No judgment, no chasing, just observing. At first, David resisted. This is pointless, he thought. But then, something clicked. He realized that if he could watch a thought, that meant he wasn't the thought. He was the one seeing it. It was like finding a secret doorway in his own mind. That inner critic? It wasn't his true self. It was just an echo of old fears. The next time the thought came, "You're not good enough," he imagined it as a cloud floating by. He didn't have to fight it. He didn't have to believe it. He could just let it pass. And in that space, something incredible happened. He felt free. The mind produces thousands of thoughts a day. Some are kind, some are cruel, some make no sense at all. If you believe every single one, you'll be pulled in 1,000 directions. But if you become the observer, you gain the power to choose which thoughts deserve your attention. It's like standing on the riverbank instead of being swept away by the current. The water still flows, but you're no longer drowning in it. So here's my question for you. What thought has been holding you hostage lately? The one that keeps showing up, whispering in the back of your mind? What if just for today you didn't fight it, didn't obey it? You just noticed it and let it pass? Remember, a thought is not a command. It's not a prophecy. It's just a ripple in the water of your mind. David didn't stop having self-doubt. But now, when it arrives, he greets it like an old harmless acquaintance. "Oh, hey, you again." He smiles and gets back to creating. That's the power of stepping back. The power of remembering. You are not the storm. You are the sky. So the next time a dark thought drifts in, try this. Close your eyes. Breathe. See it as a cloud, a leaf on a stream, a car passing by. And know this: the real you is not the voice in your head. The real you is the quiet, steady presence that's been here all along. Watching, waiting, unshaken. That's where your freedom lives. 5. The paradox of letting go. When you stop desperately chasing, what you want comes easier. Have you ever wanted something so badly that the more you chased it, the further it seemed to run away? It could be love, success, or even just peace of mind. It's strange, isn't it? We think holding on tighter will bring it closer. But sometimes, the exact opposite is true. There's a quiet truth hidden in Buddhist wisdom. When you release your desperate grip, things you once chased often find their way to you. It's not magic. It's not manifestation in the way social media likes to sell it. It's the paradox of letting go. Let me tell you about Claire. She'd been looking for love for years. Every date felt like an audition. Every conversation carried the weight of, "Is this the one?" And you can probably guess, people felt that pressure. Some pulled away. Others stayed briefly, then left. The harder Claire tried, the lonelier she felt. She believed the problem was that she wasn't trying hard enough. But deep down, she was exhausted. One weekend, she joined a friend at a meditation retreat. On the second day, the teacher said something that stuck in her mind. When you stop clutching the branch, the river can carry you exactly where you're meant to go. That night, Claire lay in bed thinking about all the ways she'd been clutching the branch. Her constant dating apps, her mental checklist, her fear of being alone. She realized she wasn't looking for love. She was trying to escape the discomfort of not having it. So she made a decision. She deleted the dating apps. She stopped scanning every room for potential partners. And instead, she started doing things that made her feel alive. Painting, hiking, reconnecting with old friends. At first, it felt strange, like she was giving up. But slowly, she noticed a new lightness in her chest. In Buddhism, craving is like a closed fist. When your hand is clenched tight, nothing new can enter. But when you open it, life can place something unexpected there. Desperation creates tension not just inside you, but in the energy you give off. People feel it. Opportunities feel it. And often, they back away. But when you let go, you create space. Space for connection. Space for joy. Space for life to surprise you. Months later, Claire met someone. Not at a fancy event, not through a dating app, but at a small art class she joined just for fun. She didn't try to impress him. She didn't perform. She was just herself. And because she wasn't desperately grasping, love flowed in naturally. So, let me ask you, what's the thing you've been holding on to so tightly that your hands are tired? Is it a dream job? A relationship? A certain outcome you think will finally make you happy? What would happen if you loosened your grip just a little? Not to give up, but to give life room to breathe. Think of a butterfly. If you chase it, it flutters away. But if you sit quietly, it might land right on your shoulder. That's the paradox of letting go. The moment you stop running after what you want with desperate hands, you become the kind of person it naturally comes to. So maybe today, you don't have to force it. You just have to open your hand. 6. Embracing the void and uncertainty. How the unknown opens the door to rebirth. Have you ever felt like your life was in limbo? Like you're standing in an empty room, and all you can hear is the echo of your own breathing? It's unsettling, right? We crave answers. We want the map. We want to know what's next. But what if I told you, those empty spaces, the moments when nothing feels certain, might actually be the most fertile ground for something new? In Buddhist wisdom, there's an idea that the void is not absence. It's possibility. The seed doesn't grow in a cluttered field. It grows in cleared soil. But for most of us, the void feels like loss. We want to rush through it. Fill it. Escape it. Let me tell you about James. He'd worked at the same company for 14 years. Then one morning, a short meeting, and 2 sentences later, he was unemployed. At first, he told himself it was fine, that he'd get another job quickly. But weeks turned into months. His savings were shrinking. Friends kept asking, "So, what's next?" And the truth was, he had no idea. Every day felt like drifting in a fog. No direction, no certainty. One afternoon, James went to a park to clear his head. He sat on a bench and noticed a tree, its branches bare, stripped by winter. At first, it looked lifeless. But as he stared, he realized it wasn't dead. It was resting, gathering strength, preparing for a season that hadn't arrived yet. Something clicked. Maybe his life wasn't over. Maybe it was just winter. In Buddhism, impermanence isn't something to fear, it's the heartbeat of life. Every ending creates a space, and that space is where transformation begins. The void is like a pause in music. Without the silence between notes, the melody wouldn't exist. But here's the problem: most of us rush to fill that silence with noise. Any job. Because sitting in uncertainty feels unbearable. James decided to stop fighting the void. Instead of frantically applying for every job, he started asking himself, what do I actually want my life to feel like? He read books he never had time for, took long walks, learned to cook, and slowly the panic faded. In its place, curiosity. 6 months later, he was offered a position at a nonprofit. It paid less than his old job, but it filled him with purpose. If he'd grabbed the first thing that came along, he would have missed it entirely. He told me, losing my job felt like the end. But really, it was the space I needed to start living on purpose. So, I want to ask you, where in your life right now? Is there a space you're afraid to sit in? Is it the gap between relationships? The pause between jobs? The quiet after a big chapter closes? What if, instead of fearing it, you treated that space as sacred, as the soil where your next life will grow? Remember that tree in winter. It's not rushing. It's not forcing spring to arrive early. It trusts the season. It trusts the void. And maybe so can you. Because sometimes it's in the quiet, in the not knowing, that the most beautiful beginnings are born. 7. Stop overthinking. When the mind is still, clarity appears. Have you ever lain awake at night? Your mind running in circles, thinking the same thoughts over and over, like a song you can't turn off? We call it overthinking. But let's be honest, it's more like mental quicksand. The harder you try to figure it out, the deeper you sink. Let me introduce you to Claire. She'd just been offered 2 amazing job opportunities. A dream situation, right? Except she couldn't decide. She made lists, compared salaries, benefits, even commute times. Then she asked friends, family, even strangers on the internet. The more she thought, the more confused she became. Her head felt like a crowded room, where every voice was yelling at once. Days turned into a week. She still hadn't chosen. Her stomach was in knots. She stopped sleeping well. She was afraid of making the wrong choice, and that fear made her think even harder. We've all been there, right? We tell ourselves, if I just think a little more, I'll figure it out. But often, the opposite is true. One afternoon, exhausted from it all, Claire decided to take a walk. No phone, no podcast, no music. Just the sound of her footsteps and the wind in the trees. After about 20 minutes, she noticed something. Her shoulders relaxed. Her breathing slowed. The noise in her head quieted. And in that stillness, a simple thought floated up. You already know, in Buddhist teaching, the mind is often compared to a glass of muddy water. Shake it, and the water stays cloudy. Set it down, and the mud settles, leaving the water clear. Overthinking is just shaking the glass again and again. We think we're helping, but really, we're making it impossible to see. Stillness isn't about not thinking at all. It's about allowing thoughts to settle, so the truth can rise to the surface on its own. When Claire returned from her walk, she didn't grab her laptop or reopen her pros and cons list. She sat quietly with a cup of tea, and almost without effort, she chose the job that felt lighter in her chest. No fireworks, no sudden lightning bolt, just a quiet knowing. And here's the beautiful part. Once she decided, All the anxiety she'd been carrying just dissolved. So, what about you? What's the decision, the problem, the endless loop playing in your mind right now? What if you stopped turning it over and over and simply let it rest? What if you trusted that clarity doesn't always come from thinking harder, but from thinking less? I know, letting go of constant thinking feels risky. We're taught that control comes from analysis, that if we just keep our mental engine running, we'll prevent mistakes. But sometimes, the wisest thing you can do is turn the engine off, step out of the car, and just walk for a while. Because the truth is, the mind often knows the answer long before we stop talking over it. Imagine your thoughts as snow in a glass globe. When you keep shaking it, all you see is swirling chaos. But when you set it down, the snow falls. The scene inside becomes clear. Your mind works the same way. So next time you're trapped in overthinking, remember, clarity isn't something you chase. It's something that comes when you finally allow yourself to be still. The whatever mindset. Whatever comes, I remain steady. A storm was rolling in. The sky was black. The wind was wild. And everyone in the village was rushing to close their windows, gather their things, make sure nothing got blown away. Everyone, except one old fisherman. He sat by the shore, mending his net, humming a tune, as if the storm didn't even exist. When someone yelled, "Aren't you worried?" he just smiled and said, "Whatever comes, I'll deal with it. Until then, I'll keep working." Now, meet Daniel. Daniel's life felt like one storm after another. His company was downsizing. His relationship was on the rocks. And his landlord had just raised the rent. Every time one problem popped up, he braced for the next one. He was tired, tense, living with this constant question in the back of his mind. What's going to go wrong next? One evening, while venting to a friend, Daniel heard something unexpected. His friend said, "You know, you're spending more energy fearing the storm than actually living through it." It hit him. Most of his suffering wasn't from the events themselves, but from his resistance to them, from the way he mentally fought against what was already happening. That's when his friend told him about the whatever mindset. Not the careless whatever we say when we don't care, but the grounded, steady whatever that says, "Whatever comes, I'll meet it. If it's good, I'll appreciate it. If it's hard, I'll handle it. Either way, I remain me." It's the same wisdom you find in Buddhist teachings. Life will bring sunshine and storms, but our peace depends on how deeply our roots go. At first, Daniel thought, that sounds nice, but easier said than done. So he started small. When a project at work got canceled last minute, instead of spiraling into, "Why me?" he took a breath and thought, "Whatever comes, I'll handle it." And then he just moved on to the next task. When his partner told him they needed space, he didn't collapse into panic. He sat with the pain, acknowledged it, and told himself, "Whatever comes, I remain steady." It didn't mean he felt nothing. It meant he stopped letting emotions throw him overboard. A tree with shallow roots gets knocked over in a strong wind. But a tree with deep roots sways, bends, and stays standing. The whatever mindset is how we grow those deep roots. It's not about pretending bad things are good or ignoring what hurts. It's about trusting that you can meet life as it is without crumbling every time it changes. So, here's my question for you. What storm are you bracing for right now? What would change if, instead of trying to predict every outcome, if you trusted yourself to meet life as it comes? What if your first response wasn't panic, but a calm, quiet, whatever comes, I'll be okay? When you live like that, you stop wasting energy on what-if thinking. You stop gripping so hard to control things you never really controlled anyway. And that energy? It comes back to you for creating, for loving, for simply being present in your own life. It's a strange thing. When you stop trying to brace against every wave, you realize most of them pass without knocking you down. I want you to picture this. You're standing on a shoreline. The tide is coming in. Some waves are gentle, some crash hard. You can try to fight them, or you can plant your feet, let the water rush around you, and trust that you'll still be standing when it recedes. That's the whatever mindset. It's not giving up. It's standing strong. It's saying to life, you can bring the calm or the storm, and I will still be me. 9. The value of full presence. When you're completely in the moment, you're no longer pulled by the past or the future. Have you ever been in a conversation, and halfway through, you realize you didn't hear a single word? Not because you didn't care, but because your mind was somewhere else, reliving yesterday's mistakes, or rehearsing tomorrow's worries. It's like life is happening right here, and you're living somewhere else entirely. Meet Sarah. She's 38, a single mom, works full-time, and somehow still manages to help her son with homework every night. But lately, she's been exhausted. Not just physically, but mentally. She'd sit in the living room with her son, but her mind would be replaying an argument with her boss or racing through the bills she hadn't paid yet. One night, her son was telling her about a drawing he made in art class. Halfway through, he stopped and said, "Mom, are you even here?" That question hit her like a brick. Because the truth was no, she wasn't there. She was in the past. She was in the future. But she wasn't in the only place she could actually live, the present moment. Later that week, Sarah read a short line in a book that stuck with her. When you're fully in the moment, the past has no chain on you, and the future has no grip. It sounded simple, almost too simple. But something in her knew it was the thing she'd been missing. So she tried. The next morning, instead of scrolling her phone while drinking coffee, she put it down. She actually tasted the coffee, felt the warmth in her hands, listened to the sound of her son's laughter in the kitchen, and for a few minutes, the endless loop of what-ifs went silent. In Buddhist teachings, they often say the mind is like a monkey, always swinging from branch to branch, from thought to thought. Presence is like gently holding the monkey still, just for a moment, so it can see the beauty of the tree it's actually in. When you're here, fully here, life slows down. Not because the world moves slower, but because your awareness stops racing ahead or falling behind. For Sarah, this shift was subtle but powerful. She started noticing small details. Her son's freckles in the morning sunlight, the smell of rain on the sidewalk after work, the sound of her own breathing before bed. And the more she noticed, the less power her regrets and fears seemed to have over her. She realized the past is just memory. The future is just imagination. The only thing that's real is right now. So let me ask you, When was the last time you were fully here? Not half here, not thinking about what's next, but actually living in the moment you're in? What would it feel like to stop time, not by changing the clock, but by actually showing up for your own life? You don't need hours of meditation to get there. You just need moments. When you eat, taste every bite. When you walk, feel the ground beneath your feet. When someone talks to you, look them in the eye and really listen. These aren't just nice habits. They're the doorway to peace. I want you to imagine holding a snow globe. If you keep shaking it, the water is cloudy, chaotic. But when you set it down, everything inside settles, and you can finally see the scene clearly. That's what presence does to your mind. It doesn't change what's inside. It just lets the chaos settle, so you can see the beauty that was there all along. So today, just for a moment, set the snow globe down. Be here, completely here, because this is the only place life ever happens. 10. Selective letting go. Not everything should be released. Keep what nourishes you, release what harms you. People talk about letting go like it's a magic cure for all pain. But here's the thing. If you let go of everything, you're not just freeing yourself. You might also be throwing away the things that actually keep you alive inside. Let me tell you about Mark. Mark was the kind of guy who read every self-help book he could find. After a bad breakup, he told himself, "I'm done holding on to anything. I'm just going to let go of it all. The past, the people, the dreams, everything." At first, it sounded healthy. It sounded like freedom. But a few months later, he felt empty. Not peaceful. Just hollow. See, Mark didn't just let go of the pain. He let go of his guitar, something that used to calm his mind. He stopped calling his old mentor someone who always encouraged him. He even stopped caring about his little garden, where he used to spend hours planting tomatoes in the spring. In trying to free himself from hurt, he also cut himself off from joy. One day, over coffee, a friend said something that stuck. "Mark, letting go doesn't mean throwing away your whole suitcase. It means unpacking it and keeping only what keeps you alive." It hit him. He didn't need to burn the whole house down. He just needed to clear the rooms that were filled with poison. In Buddhist thought, there's a quiet truth. Attachment brings suffering. But here's the nuance most people miss. It's not love or care that causes the pain. It's clinging to what harms us and ignoring what feeds our soul. Selective letting go means asking, does this nourish me or does it drain me? If it nourishes you, keep it close. If it drains you, set it down gently and walk away. Mark started small. He picked up his guitar again. The first few chords felt like home. He called his mentor, and they laughed like no time had passed. He went back to his garden, and when the first tomato ripened, he realized this was food for more than just his body. It was food for his spirit. And the things that truly harmed him, the endless arguments in his head, the old texts he kept rereading, the guilt he carried for mistakes long gone, he began to release those, one by one. Maybe right now, you've been told to let it all go. But pause. What if there are things in your life worth holding on to? The people who believe in you, the passions that make you lose track of time, the quiet rituals that make you feel grounded. Why would you let go of those? Here's a simple practice. Before you let something go, ask yourself, is this a branch I can rest on? Or is this a branch that's breaking under my weight? If it's breaking, let it fall. If it's strong, hold it and let it hold you back. I want you to imagine your life like a garden. If you pull out every plant, yes, the weeds are gone, but so are the roses. Selective letting go is gardening your heart. You remove the weeds so the flowers can breathe. You make space for light, but you protect the roots that feed you. So don't let go of everything. Let go of what poisons you. Keep what nourishes you, and watch your inner garden bloom. 11. The illusion of control. Holding on too tightly only takes away our freedom. Have you ever tried to hold water in your hands? The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips through your fingers. That's what control feels like. We think if we just hold on tighter, plan every detail, manage every outcome, we'll finally feel safe. But here's the twist. The more we try to control everything, the less free we actually are. Let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah was the kind of person who had a list for everything. Her calendar was color-coded down to the minute. If dinner was at 6:30 and someone showed up at 6:32, her chest would tighten and her mind would start to spin. She thought control was the same as stability. She believed if she kept her grip tight enough, life would have no room to hurt her. But reality doesn't care about our plans. One year, in the middle of a big work project, her computer crashed. A week later, her best friend canceled a long-awaited trip. Then out of nowhere, a storm knocked out power for 3 days. Each time, Sarah felt like the ground was disappearing under her feet. Her mind raced, her body tensed, and she lost sleep. And here's the deeper part. It wasn't the events themselves that drained her. It was her battle with them. Her refusal to let life be what it was. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day of fixing things, she was talking to her grandfather. He said something she never forgot. "Sarah, the river doesn't stop flowing just because you try to dam it with your hands. It will always find a way around you. The more you try to block it, the more tired you'll get." In Buddhist wisdom, control is seen as a subtle form of attachment. We cling not just to things, but to the idea that things must go our way. And that clinging ironically makes us suffer more than the change itself. True freedom isn't having everything under control. It's learning how to be steady inside, even when the outside is unpredictable. It's the difference between standing rigid in a storm and swaying like a bamboo that bends but never breaks. Sarah began to experiment with letting go. She started small, leaving an afternoon unplanned. At first, it was uncomfortable, like walking without a map. But then, something surprising happened. She noticed moments she had never seen before. A stranger's kindness at a coffee shop, the sound of rain she used to rush past, a spontaneous call from her sister that turned into an hour of laughter. Life didn't fall apart when she loosened her grip. In fact, it became richer. Maybe you've been there too. Maybe you've been holding the steering wheel of life so tightly that your knuckles have turned white. But let me ask you, what would happen if you loosened your grip? Just a little? What might you notice, or even receive, if you gave life some space to surprise you? Here's a practice. The next time something doesn't go according to plan, pause. Before you react, ask yourself, is this worth my peace? If the answer is no, take a breath. Step back. Let the river flow where it wants to go. Imagine you're holding a bird. If you grip it too tightly, you'll harm it. If you open your hands just enough, it might stay. Not because you trapped it, but because it feels safe with you. Control is the same way. You don't need to strangle life to keep it close. When you loosen your grip, you don't lose control. You gain freedom. So maybe today, let the water slip through your fingers. Trust that what's meant for you will remain. And give yourself the gift of breathing without fear of what's next. 12. Let the moment lead. Stop managing the present. Let life arrange itself. Have you ever tried to control every single second of your day, only to end up missing the very life you were trying to perfect? We're told that success is about managing every detail. But here's the thing. Sometimes the most beautiful moments are the ones you never planned. Let me tell you about Michael. Michael was a master planner. His days were stacked with to-do lists, reminders, and backup plans for his backup plans. If there was even a 5-minute gap, he'd fill it. He thought that's what living efficiently meant. One Sunday morning, Michael was sitting at a cafe with his laptop open, answering emails before his scheduled afternoon hike. Then, it happened. A little girl at the next table dropped her ice cream. She looked devastated. Michael glanced over, and before he could think, he closed his laptop, bought her another cone, and ended up talking with her grandmother for nearly an hour. No plan, no agenda, just presence. In Buddhist thought, there's a deep truth here. When you stop trying to control the present moment, you give it room to breathe and to surprise you. It's like holding a butterfly. If you keep it in a jar, you can examine it, sure, but you'll never feel the magic of it landing on you by choice. The problem is, our minds love certainty. We think if we don't manage the present, we'll waste time, we'll fall behind, we'll lose control. But control is an illusion. And the more you try to force life into your shape, the less space there is for life to shape you. After that Sunday, Michael started experimenting. One day a week, he'd leave a few hours completely unplanned. No phone, no email, no productive task. At first, it was uncomfortable, like standing still in a crowd that's always moving. But slowly, he started to notice things. The way the sunlight touched the bricks on his street in late afternoon. The sound of a street musician playing a song he hadn't heard since childhood. A stranger holding the door a little longer than necessary, just to be kind. Think about it. When was the last time you let a moment lead you? Without rushing it, without shaping it, without trying to make it useful? How many conversations, smiles, and small miracles have you missed? Because you were too busy managing what was already here? Here's something you can try. Tomorrow, pick one small window of time. Maybe it's your morning coffee. Maybe it's the walk to your car. And instead of filling it with a podcast, a phone call, or a to-do list, just be there. Notice the colors, the temperature of the air, the expressions on people's faces. Let the moment tell you where to go next. Because life is not a project to be completed. It's not a schedule to be optimized. It's a living, breathing thing, and it has a way of arranging itself far better than we ever could. When you loosen your grip, you don't fall apart. You fall into place. So maybe today, you close the laptop for a while. You pause the clock in your mind. You let the river of this moment carry you. Without paddling so hard, you might be surprised where it takes you. And who knows, the very thing you've been searching for might be waiting for you. In a moment, you almost managed away. Closing, lasting image. You know, we spend so much of our lives trying to hold on. Hold on to people, to plans, to the version of ourselves we think we're supposed to be. But here's the truth I've learned. Letting go isn't giving up. It's the art of coming home to yourself. When you choose what to keep and you dare to release what's been weighing you down, you start to breathe differently. The air feels lighter, and suddenly, you're no longer chained to fear or to outcomes you can't control. I remember a friend telling me once, "I can't let go because if I do, I'll lose everything." And I told her, "No, when you let go, you don't lose. You finally have space for what's real to come in." That's the paradox, isn't it? We think holding tighter keeps us safe, but it's the unclenched hand, the open heart, that truly welcomes life. Think of it like carrying a heavy bag everywhere you go. You've gotten used to the weight, so you think it's normal. But the moment you set it down, you wonder how you ever lived with it pressing on your shoulders every single day. The heart of this is simple. Live fully. Release what's heavy, and trust that life knows the way better than your fear ever will. When you stop forcing, you make room for grace. When you stop chasing, the right things have a way of finding you. Buddhist wisdom calls it non-attachment. But to me, it feels more like remembering that you are more than what you cling to. You are not your failures, not your achievements, not the people who stayed, not the people who left. You are the space in which life happens. And that space is already free. So maybe the question isn't, what if I let go and it all falls apart? Maybe the real question is, what if I never let go and miss the life that's waiting for me? If you're thinking of someone right now, someone carrying something heavy, maybe send them this. Sometimes we just need a reminder that we don't have to do it all by force. And maybe, if this is you, maybe tonight you put down just one thing you've been holding, and you see how it feels to finally have both hands free. Because freedom isn't somewhere far away. It's in the space you create, the moment you choose to let go.